Airbnb wants to team up with landlords who allow their tenants to host Airbnbs on their properties and give them a cut of the profits. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic to cover today, and it has to do with Airbnb. So right now, Airbnb is trying to go through and push out there so that they can get more people who are hosting these Airbnbs so that they can make more money, right? And they presented this new opportunity out there for these large landlords, and it might spread to smaller landlords at some point in the future. So basically, what they want landlords to do is offer their units up, allow their tenants to use the units, basically sublease the units on the Airbnb platform, right? And so some landlords are actually getting behind this. Now, I don't personally like the idea of my tenant, using my apartment or my house as an Airbnb. However, I will say this. If I got a part of the profits, that might make a difference on my decision on that, okay? The big issue I have right now is that, one, I don't know who I've got, coming in and out of the property at any point in time. Two, I've got additional wear and tear on the property because of all the tenants or all of the Airbnb guests who are coming in and out of the property. I've got insurance issues. I don't know if my insurance would actually cover if there is some sort of claim or damage to the property with short-term rental use. I've got a lot of questions, right? And that's why I don't want to personally for my tenants to participate in this sort of thing, right? But, if there is some sort of assurance that I would get a larger portion of the profit that Airbnb is, paying out, then yeah, maybe I'd be willing to look more into those things and willing to allow my tenants to essentially be subleasers and use my units as short-term rentals. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. What do you think of this new proposal by Airbnb? And keep in mind, this is for large landlords right now only, right? But basically to partner with landlords and allow tenants to use their units as short-term rentals and the landlord getting a cut of the profits. I'm going to get more into the details of this whole interesting new program that Airbnb is starting and, when I get into the article. So let's get into it. This article is coming from cbsnews.com and it says, Airbnb to launch apartment rental service and give landlords a cut. Yeah, and the cut is what I'm really the most interested in. So let's get into it. Home sharing service Airbnb has a pitch for renters stretched thin by inflation. Rent out your apartment to guests to offset the rising cost of living. The short-term rental service is partnering with some of the biggest landlords to help renters find an Airbnb-friendly apartment where they can live and host at the same time. Airbnb-friendly apartments are part of Airbnb's broader efforts to help more people tap into the economic benefits of hosting at a time when many are trying to keep up with the rising cost of living, the company said in a statement announcing the new initiative Wednesday. Airbnb has an inventory of more than 175 host-friendly apartment buildings in more than 25 markets across the U.S., the company said. Renters can list an empty room on the site or rent out their entire apartment while they are away. So yeah, there's already a bunch of buildings that, they call host friendly, right? Which means that the landlords agree that the tenants of these buildings can go ahead and, rent them out on the Airbnb platform. Okay, so what they're doing is they're just saying, hey, we agree that, you can go ahead, rent out the unit if you choose to on our platform, but you don't have to, own the unit. We give you permission, etc. Right? I mean, it sounds like a good deal if that is the landlord saying this, right? But what I've seen a lot is that a lot of these Airbnb hosts won't even ask the landlord. They'll just go in there, they'll claim that they're going to use it for long-term use, and then just rent it out on the Airbnb platform, until the landlord finds out, and then the landlord is sitting there scratching their head like, what do I do now? What do I do now? And they don't get a cut of the profits. They don't get anything, right? And so I don't think that a lot of traditional hosts are going to want to sign up for this program because a lot of them already are getting away with not having to, give the landlord any cut. So suddenly the landlord taking 20%, that's a big difference when it comes to their profit. So yeah, I mean, I don't see this as becoming a big thing, and I personally, wouldn't want to participate the way that they have it laid out. Airbnb's new partners include buildings operated by Equity Residential, Greystar, Central, and others. Prospective renters can browse Airbnb-friendly apartments on Airbnb's website. Airbnb said the initiative brings the company back to its roots when co-founders Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia took in strangers to cover their rent. Airbnb was founded during the recession when Brian and Joe needed help affording their rent. And now Airbnb-friendly apartments build on that founding story by making it easier for people to reap the economic benefits of hosting. Airbnb co-founder and chief strategy officer Nathan Blacharczyk said in a statement, "As the cost of living continues to rise, renters can use the extra income earned by hosting part-time on Airbnb to contribute to their rent, save for a home, or pay for other living expenses." They come out and they make it seem like, people, they're just going to be renting out a spare room or maybe renting the place when they're out of town. And I'd be willing to bet that that is the minority of the listings on the platform. Okay, the majority of the listings are units that are 100% Airbnb all the time. Okay, they are places that were purchased or rented out with the specific intent and purpose of being a short-term rental and not just some spare little extra area. Back in the day, back when they founded the company, that's what this was all supposed to be, right? But no more. Okay, now it's become a very, it's run by professionals. It's run by landlords and hosts who know what they're doing, and they have business mindset, and they make a lot of money doing it. So, trying to pretend like, hey, maybe the thought is that these apartment buildings that allow this is for people who, they don't know if they're kind of wishy-washy on whether they want to be a host or not, right? And so it's giving them an opportunity to get into a building, with very little money and start being a host, okay? And not have to worry about the landlord getting upset with them or whatever, okay? More than 40% of Airbnb hosts use the income they earn on the platform to help them cover higher cost of living, according to an Airbnb poll. The new program says it aims to extend that opportunity to more Americans. It is also a way for Airbnb to grow at a time when dozens of U.S. cities and states have banned short-term rentals. In New York, for example, all short-term rentals of entire homes are illegal. Housing activists have accused Airbnb and other short-term rental companies of exacerbating the housing crisis by turning much-needed dwellings into de facto hotels. Landlords will get a cut of up to 20% of the total booking revenue from Airbnb sublets, the Wall Street Journal reported. They always bring up this whole thing about how, they believe that Airbnbs are contributing to the housing shortage. And I just don't believe it. Okay, I just do not believe that there are so many short-term rentals that that it makes any impact on the housing at all. Okay, my personal belief is that the impact that it makes is minuscule. You see a lot of Airbnbs in very, very popular parts of town that aren't places where the living was very affordable in the first place, okay? If you're telling me, well, in the most popular, expensive area of New York, there's a lot of Airbnbs, and that's just not fair because that takes away affordable housing. Well, there was never any affordable housing there in the first place, okay? So, I think that this platform, I personally believe that it offers a great service, right? And I have no problem with landlords or, people who are hosts of these sort of short-term rentals, okay? And I've considered doing it myself. I personally prefer long-term because it's hands-off. I have to do way less active work, in order to get paid. So, but that doesn't mean I have a problem with it. my other concern is that there are, like they mentioned in the article, there's so many new laws and rules and regulations being passed by states and cities and municipalities that you don't know if what you're doing, your business that you're operating, is even going to be legal within a few years. Okay, so it's very, very questionable. And many cities, even in more conservative landlord friendly places, have started to really crack down on Airbnb because they say, hey, it's hurting our neighborhoods, it's etc. Okay, the parties are really the bad thing, in my opinion. When you have these guests and they throw these wild parties in these houses that are in residential neighborhoods, a lot of people don't want to live near that kind of nonsense. And it doesn't matter if the place is landlord friendly or not. Okay, so I don't know if this program is actually going to make any sort of difference. I personally don't believe it will make much of a difference. They're trying to get more people to start hosting on the platform, and honest truth, it just might not be the best method of going about doing that.